Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Swapan Kumar Roy with us. A brief introduction of Dr. Swapan. He has done his bachelor's in agriculture from Putuakhali Science and Technology University, Bangladesh. For master's in biotechnology, he attended Bangladesh Agricultural University, and for PhD in agriculture with a specialization in environmental biotechnology, he went to Chungbuk National University in South Korea. He did his postdoc also in the same university, and currently Dr. Swapan is assistant professor in College of Agricultural Sciences at International University of Business, Agriculture and Technology, also known as IUBAT. With this brief introduction, we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Swapan, for taking time out for this conversation.
Thank you very much, and I am very much happy with you.
So we always start these conversations that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
Yeah, so actually, you know, um, actually, I hail from or come from very rural area. So where actually my till five, actually I don't have any or very little institutional background or little institutional academic facilities I grown up. So that's why from the childhood, actually, I was very much curious. So always I looking for to explore something. So that things gives me to introduce research actually. And also, from my extended family, around 26, master's holders, but there is no PhD holders. So my elder brother, he is my inspiration, and he always inspire me to go for higher education. So that's why when I think about that, that's why since I am very much passionate to research, and it is a great opportunity if I do PhD in abroad, then my dream will come true. So from my elder brother passions, and since I am very much passionate to research, and my curiosity all together actually helped me to go with the research. Okay, so that's why from the beginning, actually, after when I enter my undergraduate program, so beside like academic activities, I always try to engage myself in research activities as well. Okay, and masters during my masters also, I always try to engage myself some projects. And after finishing my master's program, since I am very much passionate that I already have mentioned with you, so I am always looking for some scholarship. Okay, since and another time, in the same time, my friends they are looking for some government job, but I always think about how I can go outside or how I can go abroad. Okay, so that I can alive myself in research field. Okay, so all of this together actually, help me to, continue with the research.
Perfect. Great. So let's start about the role of scholarships. As you mentioned that you were passionate to do research, you were very much fascinated that you want to do PhD outside Bangladesh also. So you started looking for scholarships. Based on your experience, what you can share that our audience should prepare themselves if they have the similar interest.
Sure. Actually, in our country, that in actually Indian subcontinent as well. So very much, it is very much difficult to grasp a scholarship from abroad. It is a very common scenario. So, that time, I'm talking about when I have completed my master's. Then after master's, actually, I was involved some government job and some research project as well. So there is a little bit a gap also in my case. But I started my PhD journey in 2012. So that time it was very difficult time actually in my country. Internet facilities or other facilities were not available. Okay, so I sacrifice a lot actually. Nowadays it's very much open. Okay, anyone can anytime can access throughout the globe. But that time I sacrifice a lot because in what means because that time after graduation then I need to go for or enter for the job. I have no money but or little amount of money, and sometimes I sacrifice with my some breakfast or maybe dinner or snacks, and I usually visited the different cafe to check the different professor or university where I can do PhD program or searching for some scholarship. So that's why, yeah, it's my actually my point of view, for the who are very much interested to enter in the research or looking for the scholarship. I think their interest or their, you know, if they are very much interested in that field or they are very much passionate, then they can easily grasp the scholarship. It is, not so much difficult. Sometimes maybe they get fail, but sometimes I can remember maybe one day, more than 50 mails, or sometimes, 1 week, maybe more than 500 or 600 mails I sent different professors throughout the world. So that's why always keep going. Okay, never give up. I think in my case, for the who are very passionate for the research or looking for the scholarship. So it's not just a small suggestion. Okay,
Absolutely. And I
so
think this is very important because we have seen in our conversations with our researcher celebrities that there comes a time when people are applying for PhD positions abroad or even in their own countries and they are not getting acceptance. So that itself is the biggest challenge to even break the ground to do any kind of research, like to pursue their passion. But having researchers like you who are committed, even the limited resources cannot stop them. As you mentioned, giving up on breakfast, which is like sometimes we have to do those priority checks that what is our priority at this point of time? What should we focus our resources, our energy more on instead of, making those shift arrangements. And that is not permanent for sure. But having that said, when you mentioned that you were doing all of this, then finally you got accepted at Chungbuk National University. So how do you think that that thing changed, sending those 50 mails, 500 mails and not getting anything, and now you have an offer? Or before that, if the interview call, what the process was, and then how what you felt at that point, which you can share with the audience.
Yeah, thank you. Because that moment is very much important for me because I am looking for the scholarship and so one of my friend, Dr. Kamal, actually introduced my professor where I did my PhD. So introduced me in that lab, and that time my professor have one project and he's looking for the foreign students, whereas I apply actually. So, when I heard about the scholarship in Bangladesh, that time I am engaged in a government job. So it was very difficult time or tough time. So what should I decide? Okay, I should go for the higher education or I should keep going with my government job. But that time my elder brother that I already have mentioned, he is my inspiration. He always tell me that he sacrificed a lot for my family. Okay, so that's why he did not go for even the master's or PhD program because of to actually take care of our education. So that's why after hearing that, he mentioned that you should choose your PhD program rather than doing in the government job. Okay, you can do it later or you can decide later what is going on or how what may happen in your life. But at that moment, you should go for the PhD program. Then that moment actually really very much crucial, and at I decided to go to abroad and started my journey. Okay, so that is actually what I can say. It is actually my scholarship was a professor funded scholarship, not open scholarship. So before you ask me some for the who are interested for searching the scholarship, there are different types of scholarship. Nowadays, students who are seeking for the scholarship and abroad, I think they know much or better than us. They have the more information, so they can try for that. Open scholarship nowadays little bit competitive, but sometimes you're looking for university scholarship as well. In outside every university, they have some honest scholarship, also professor funded scholarship. Okay, so they can try in several ways. So that moment is really very much, amazing moment in my life. Okay, so I cannot explain it or express it in words.
I can totally understand that because when you have that bleak light ray after that much of long tunnel, which is so dark when nothing is working, and suddenly you receive a mail that you have been selected for your PhD position, that is very fulfilling. And also for all the audience here, I would like to say that if you are going through that tough phase right now when where you are applying either for PhD positions or for postdoc positions and you're not getting any response, so you should also do another check that what is missing, because sometimes when we send emails they are very generic. So what we will suggest, and this is based on the experience shared by our researcher celebrities, that instead of being generic, try to be as focused as you can, so that whenever, if, because there are some cases where the PIs, the supervisor, doesn't even have the time. The scientists are so occupied that they don't even open that mail. But one thing which you should make, or ensure that if they open the mail, they read it, they should be felt bounded to it, so that you can have a good chance. Because if you have done your groundwork properly, your homework properly, that what is the research focus of the lab, what are your research interests, and then how you can be a good fit in there, so that opens your door to the lab. That is the possibility in there. Talking of another important part, which Dr. Swapan just mentioned, that it's not that all researchers perform their duty in the lab or doing PhD are called as researchers. Having that support of family, as Dr. Swapan mentioned about the support from his elder brother, is equally important. That there is someone to back you up, to say that, okay, whenever you have tough time to decide, you have someone to give you an opinion who is reliable, and then you can fly your wings and then just open your wings and fly. So, Dr. Swapan, let's talk the first stage when you left Bangladesh, landed in South Korea. What were the different challenges you faced? And based on that, how you what you can say that our audience, the students who are preparing for move like this, how they can prepare themselves better.
Yeah. So actually that time, when I entered first time in Korea, that time I first case I faced the communication problem. It is a very common problem throughout the globe. So in case of China, Korea, and Japan, it is very much common. So communication problem. So my labmates, they are very much generous, but in case of communication, even my professor also, not for communication, I passed a very difficult time at the beginning stage. But anyhow, after a few months later, actually, then I try to manage it. I try to learn the Korean language, and also I try to understand some of my laments, where what they are talking, what trying to explain. Okay, because it is actually sometimes they're in English also, they're not interested, because since they are the Koreans, so they always try to speak in Koreans. So when they try to communicate with me, they try to communicate with English, but at the beginning it was very much difficult. In our case, Indian subcontinent, we can easily understand our pronunciation, but some other country, it is a little bit different. Like, so that's why it was very difficult time actually I passed, because for actually except research, some other purposes like body language or other things help me a lot to understand them. But for academic purposes, for research purposes, communication is very much crucial. Okay, if you don't know their language, or if you fail to communicate with them, the message that you are going to deliver, but they don't understand what's some misguided. Okay, maybe your message is some twisted. So it is very much boring thing, or very much, how to say, this is unweird. Okay, so anyway, so that time actually that things maybe after a few months, then I try to understand the Korean language, and also some of my lemmates also I I understand their expression, what they are talking to or talking about. So later, basically, at the beginning I face very much difficult, but later I try to cope up with it. Okay, because there is no alternative option if you don't cope up with this communication problem. So anyway, so first time in case of what type of challenges actually I face regarding daily life and like research. Daily life anyhow with some of my friends we try to uh, um, mitigate it or minimize it, but in laboratory activities or research activities, you know, um, it was really horrible for me or really difficult for me. But I actually, uh, try hard to
Mhm.
learn Korean language quickly, and also I try to tell or speak in such a way so that they can understand. Okay,
Yes.
very softly, or how to say, um, not talking like fluent speaker. Okay,
Mhm.
so anyhow, I can manage it later. Okay,
Mhm.
and first time I face this kind of problem, like, when I go for the experiment, that time, most of the lemons, that time, very two of them maybe very young, they can speak English little bit, okay. But the senior, they cannot speak English, okay, fluently. So, but most of the techniques I must have to learn from the seniors, okay, because since I introduced myself in a latest molecular tool like photonics techniques that I didn't know before entering my lab in Bangladesh. Okay, so all are very much new for me. So that molecular tool, that is, what I need to learn from my senior, that in communication problems is, it was a very big problem for me or big challenge for me. Okay, if I don't know what they're talking about, how I can understand that techniques. If I, wrong understanding of these techniques, how I can apply in my experiments. Okay, so that's why it give me a lots of pain that time. Okay, so
Mhm.
how I can, I try to later some techniques. I will share it later, some techniques as well. So that type of challenges actually, this communication problem challenge. And another challenge actually, my professor is very much optimistic, and how to say, his dream was very big. Okay, he
Mhm.
always tell me, you have to publish in Nature or Science, like such kind
Mhm.
of journal. Okay,
Mhm.
so Dr. Roy, you have to work hard. Or so that's
Mhm.
why, it gives me also, when I enter in the lab, gives me a lot of pain. Because that
Mhm.
time I don't understand. I need to focus on the literature review. But my professor
Mhm.
always printed many paper that is published in Nature and Science. That time it was very much difficult to understand. Okay, so what is going on? So, so that's why that type of pain actually, and also he switched many areas. Maybe one day he is going for the, okay, subcellular proteomics area. Next day, hey, oh, no, this is it is difficult or not possible. Another area he picks, and the Swiss one. Okay, Swiss always change. So that time, and also, another challenge, like in writing, many because Korean, they are not good at writing, so they think in Indian subcontinent, the scientist or researcher who join in the Korea, because they try to engage themselves for writing purposes, manuscript writing or article writing purpose. So when I entered the lab, that time they assigned me a lot of articles, a lot of data sets. Okay, that was really difficult for me. but assign me and then tell me, Roy, you can start writing the articles. Okay, so that also gives me a lot of pain because that time, for the young researcher, I want to give you some suggestion that way, when you enter the lab, you must have to focus on the writing, not writing the papers at the first time. Must, of course, you need to focus on the literacy knowledge, gathering knowledge first in
Mhm.
a specific field. That is very much crucial for a researcher. Okay, because I faced that problems. That's why I shared that things. That
Yes,
time,
absolutely.
I actually expert in writing articles rather than,
Mhm.
gathering knowledge from the literature review. So that's why,
Mhm.
it actually later I understand. Okay, when I start the experiment, then I face a lot of problems. Then I always, try to, and night time, daytime I actually experiment, and night time I study a lot of articles. Okay, that give me some real relief. But I think if I start at the beginning that things, I can start my experiment, without any hassle. Okay.
Yes.
So anyway, so that type of problems or challenges actually I face when I enter in the Korea.
Mhm.
For the first few months, I face such kind of problems.
No, that is actually wonderful sharing, and we can say that to all the audience, whosoever is listening to this, that this circles back to our conversation as we mentioned, that if you have done your homework, the proper work, that what are the techniques which are used in the lab, what is the research focus of the lab, what kind of experiments they design and they have performed, and one of the best way to get done and understand this is visit their labs website, read their recent papers. So in paper they have explained everything, what techniques were used, tools were used, how they navigated it, how they came up with it, what were the hypotheses. And even more important thing is setting up the expectations. Whenever you are interviewing for PhD or postdoc positions, you should know that what they are expecting from you and what are your expectations from them. This will help that challenge, like minimize that challenge, that as Dr. Swapan mentioned, it's very important for you to settle down in there, which gives yourself some time. They also know that you are just moving from a different country, from a different culture. English might not be your first language. Okay. Having all these set up in the mind of the person in both the places, mentor as well as the mentee, if they both are on the same page, then it reduces those frictions at times. Either it is you just a normal conversation, as Dr. Swapan mentioned, because every continent, every country have a different dialect and the pronunciations. So these are the things which can be worked upon when you are preparing yourself to make the move from one country to other. Second thing, which is very important, and also Dr. Swapan mentioned, if you have done good, clear, transparent communication with your supervisor, you already know that that lab, that research group is very high demanding or not. Is there a pressure for you to publish as soon as you land there? Not all the labs are like that, but if that is the one, it is your priority, because all of us has different personality. Some of us like to work in that environment, some of us does not. So you should make your own SWOT analysis and then see which lab is the best suited according to your personality, your research interest, and then because only passion in research can take you to some point. But then will come the time when there will be experiments which are not working, manuscripts being rejected multiple times. So, how will you navigate through that time? Now, Dr. Swapan, if you can share your experiences based on the situation, scenarios, what I just mentioned, when experiments are not working, manuscripts are not getting accepted, that stress, how did you manage it? And based on your experience, what our audience can learn from it?
Yeah, it is very much crucial for a researcher actually, and it is a very uh, important part actually for a researcher. Every time, you sacrifice a lot for the research and you set up an experiment, and everything is okay, and get the data analysis and manuscript preparation, and then finally submit it in the journal, and it got rejected after review. So it's actually it may happens with the every researchers. So in my case, actually, you know that is that type of stage actually in I think in that part, like China, Japan, and Korea, stage is very much common for a researcher. So so in my case, I actually use some strategy or some techniques to overcome that problems. You know, first times, so like in case of experiment, that is the which field you are working, and sometimes everything is okay, your data is everything is okay, but where you will submit your data, that is very much important, the which journal is choose. So sometimes for journal selection and your writing ability or quality, okay, that also very much crucial for the acceptance or rejection. But in my case, actually, when I first time got rejected, that time, I don't worry about it. Just I take the review report, and if what is the reason behind it, I try to find out it, and I share with my professors that is the problems that we face in our experiments. So how we can mitigate in the next experiment or in this project, how we can solve that problem, and we can convince our reviewer if it is possible or not. Then I share with my professor. He has a lot of experiences regarding this acceptance and rejection of the articles. So he always guide me. Okay, no problem. Sometimes he also encourage me. Well, if some journal reject, then you can have you can submit more high impact factor journal. No problem. If you improve your article, then submit some high impact factor, but don't be frustrated. Okay, so that techniques also, I always share of, okay, no problems, but that actually give me a lot of stress, because your PhD period is very short time. You need some requirement, and that time a lot of stress in your hand. Okay, and that time paper rejection. So you're thinking about I must have to complete my requirement within 6 months or 1 year. But that time you submit the articles and rejection, rejection, rejection. Okay, and one time, some journal, it takes 6 months, around 1 year for the decisions. So, days gone, time goes very fast, and, you frustrated. So that time actually, to keep you alive, or, to keep going is very much, important things. Okay. So in that case, actually, I actually, some strategies that I follow, that is, when I set up the experiment, I try to set up experiment in several ways. Okay. That's why some backup also, I keep backup experiment. Like one is very high thought experiment or high thought thinking, and one or two experiment, so that that experiment give me some backup. Okay, if I fail the high thought experiment like that. So in my case, I set up such kind of experiment. Okay, because within the time is limited, time bounded. So within 3 years or 4 years, I must have to finish. So my professor gave me an idea, or I study about one idea and set up an experiment, and maybe I failed. Then what may happen? Okay, so that's why in my case, I like plan B or plan C I keep. That time some some easy experiment. Okay, like in my case, suppose I work on the proteomics field. So first I select the subcellular proteomics, like coloplast. It was very much difficult. Okay, so as a back experiment, I also set up some other experiment, like whole proteomics, like I use some tissue like leaf, root, or some other tissues that is more easy to extract. Okay, and so that I can publish it in low impact factor journal, no problem. Okay, but at least I can, fulfill the requirement of the PhD program.
Yes.
Okay, so that type of techniques actually I apply uh, for my site actually.
That's actually
In case
wonderful.
of
And yeah, we can say to all the audience here that having this plan A and plan B, like some exploratory research, whereas some part of your research should be where you know that this will work, this has worked in past. So that's make keeping that balance also uh, help to reduce the pressure on yourself, because you know that if this is not working, you have something which is going to work. And as Dr. Swapan mentioned, you can fulfill the requirement to get the PhD, because PhD is a training. That's when you learn how to think, how to come up with hypotheses, design your experiments. That's what you learn. It's not the fulfillment of your research career, it's just the start of it. So having that balanced strategy will help for sure. So Dr. Swapan, when you were done with your PhD, now let's say it first, let's say that how was that journey of PhD in general?
actually it was not bad. Some cases, how I can say that is, the whole journey actually it was very much amazing for me because for the few months, it was not good. But later, when I understand that is, when I can communicate with the with my lab mates and also some other scientists, I understand that, or I realize that I have to cope up, or I have to learn some of the techniques that you already have mentioned. The PhD is, learning so many techniques, or it's a training, right? So I think so. That time I realized that I must have to learn that techniques anyhow. Okay, for my limits, or sometimes my limit is problem, then any other places in the any other institute. Okay, so that time actually my in one thing my professor is very much kind. Okay, so so that's why he introduced a lot of scientists. Since my lab, it is regarding the proteomics, it is very much a new lab. So many techniques or many protocol was not available at that time. So that's why I around 6 months to 1 year, I face a lot of struggle, a lot of problems because no protocol, no instruction from my seniors or lab manager, so how I can keep going? So that time my professor helped me a lot. Okay, I'm very much grateful to him. He introduced me because he know that, he realized that. Okay, so it's a very new lab and Dr. Roy is facing a problem. He also faces some problem. That's why he realized that. And he introduced a lot of scientists, like proteomics scientist or proteomic researcher, okay, around another institute. And that time, actually, I sacrifice a lot. Okay, since I am very passionate to research. So I sacrifice a lot. How? At weekend time, sometimes I visited the another institute or some of my friends, like Indian friends or Nepalese or Filipino. I just try to, network throughout the Korea, who are engaged or working in this field, and sometimes with coffee, offering coffee as well, okay, or offering some dinner or lunch as well. So I must have to learn that techniques. So that's why, within 6 months, I learned all of these techniques. And then after I started my journey actually. Okay. So but everything is okay. But in my PhD, actually, uh, I got married that time after 3 years of my PhD journey. So my professor didn't accept it easily. Okay, he thinks um, I'm not sure, but most of the professors they don't maybe after marriage you will give time your wife or family, so they
Mhm.
don't want. So anyhow. So sometimes he tell me, Dr. Roy, you are not, uh, you know, focusing on your research. after marriage, so you should focus on otherwise it is not possible to graduate on time. So that time of word or advice or I heard many times. Anyway, so before also graduation, I become father as well. Okay, so it's actually got married, become father within this PhD period. So that's why that journey was very much, not easy for me. It was quite
Absolutely.
difficult. So for whom the single person or unmarried person, the story is different. But
Yes.
for me, it was different story. I got
Mm-hmm.
married, managed my wife, family life. Okay, because she is not interested in science. So after
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6, she expect I will go home. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and go for shopping or another places.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that time I must need to give more time in lab. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, and after becoming father that time, before my graduation that time. Okay, so it was very much quite a very much difficult time I first. Okay,
I
the
can.
reason why, yeah, yeah,
So this is something which we talk in these conversations, that doing research in lab or on computer is one part of your personality. You as a human have multiple roles to play, and this is again one of the things which you should talk to your supervisor, your PhD mentor, that life is whole. It's not the experiment. It's
yeah,
not the time when you are in lab. You have some other responsibilities, priorities, spending time with your friends, with your family, getting married, having kids during PhD. This is all part of life. So
yeah,
if you set up these conversations early on, it helps you to navigate it throughout the period. Even if you have slight plans, better to have that instead of coming this as a shocker. And as Dr. Swapan mentioned, that instead of that, then when your supervisor is giving comments, because this is not acceptable, and it should not be acceptable for any researcher, if they say that you cannot have babies or you cannot get married. That's not their part of thing. They are your research supervisors. You should only take these challenges, or whatever their suggestions are for your research, for your training as a researcher, not as a person. Again, this is my perspective, and this came up in multiple researcher celebrity conversations. That's why we say that you should keep those boundaries early on, set up
yeah.
those clear expectations so that no one get hurt in longer run. With this, we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Swapan, for all this. If you have some few words, what we say, word of wisdom at the end of this conversation, what would you like to suggest?
Sure. Actually, the PhD journey, after PhD journey, that I work around 4 years for the postdoc as a postdoctoral fellow. So actually, that you already have mentioned that in case of PhD life or PhD period is a training period. So we don't know actually that time, many things. Okay, throughout the PhD, we learn a lot of techniques and that apply in the postdoc, right? That time I know or I realize what I did mistake in my PhD. Okay, that time sometimes I think I should maybe start my second PhD again because now I am ready for the PhD. So what I did that was many parts are wrong. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so that time PhD actually give a postdoc actually give a lot of confidence that time. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that time I engage in project writing and also I realize what was my faults, okay, or gap. Anyway, so my suggestion, actually, what you mentioned for the young researchers or who are very much interested or to enter in the research as a research career, it is very much important thing that is first is field is choosing a specific field is very much important. Okay, so if you don't choose the specific field, you will one time you will you will face some identity crisis. In case of lab, a lot of professor they have many projects. So sometimes you are working in different projects and you have a lot of papers, but it is not your identity. Your identity is in which field you are working. Okay, that is your identity. So, or which materials you are going to use, which things or which problems you are going for the address. So that is very much important for the young researcher. And also, one thing nowadays, due to the introduce of the artificial intelligence, it is very much difficult or very much not difficult, uh, but many of the researchers or newcomer, many young scientists, they visit me and also share with their opinions. But I think for them, my advice, don't replace you with the artificial intelligence. Don't replace you. Please use it as your assistant. Okay.
Mhm.
So, and one thing that is, you must have to gather a lot of literacy and knowledge before entering or starting your research or starting your projects. And one thing is very much important. That is, you know, impact is more important than the impact factors. That is very much
Yes, very good.
important in the research community.
Well
We can
said.
publish a lot of articles. I hear a lot of stories throughout the globe. And also I hear one professor, he is now, very good professor in Canada. Okay, so from the USA, and he have only two articles, but very
Mhm.
impactful articles. And he is now faculty member in the Canada. Okay, so it is very much important thing. So we have a lot of articles, but the field is different fields, not a specific field or a specific problem, not solving. So that actually not represent you. So for representing as researcher, one or two very important work is very much important. So for the newcomer or new, researcher who are very much interested, it's a very common advice for them. Okay,
It is
don't go
wonderful.
for the impact factor or increasing the number of articles. Okay,
Hmm.
rather than think about the impact. Even if
Wonderful.
you publish in low impact factor journal, but their
Hmm.
impact is very huge, it may happen.
Yes.
Sometimes it
Hmm.
Lancet wall articles not impactful. Okay,
Hmm.
doesn't have any influence or reflection on the society. So, it's a meaningless. A lot of articles, no citations. Okay.
Hmm.
So that's why, it is very much important thing for the
So
young
true.
research. Yeah.
And I think the two most important part which you mentioned, like creating your own niche, select that, and then look for the impact instead of impact factor. Whatever your research is making impact for human society is more important. I think that
Yeah.
was a perfect perfect statement to close the conversation. With this, we'll say to all the audience, if you want to write to Dr. Swapan, you can write to him directly. If you want STEM for Society to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, we are there to support you. And now we can conclude the conversation by saying thank you so much, Dr. Swapan, for taking time out for this conversation and sharing your journey, which I'm sure will ignite some more research brains now and making their journey easy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Raja, for calling me and talking with me. Okay, it's also very much great honor for me. Okay, so I think I wish the Empowering Science Foundation. Okay, so it is a very good platform and it's a very good experience for the research community, and for the researcher is very much important because we should raise a voice. Okay, we have some problems that we face. Uh, so it's a very good platform, I think. So we can tell our story in here for the young researchers as well. It will helpful for them as well. Okay, thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
That's the idea. Thank you so much, Dr. Sopan, for your kind words. And that is the motive behind these series, that we can develop a network where everyone can feel appreciated and acknowledged, because that is one thing which researchers lack in most of the world. Thank you so much. To all the audience, we can say stay tuned for another episode of Researchers Celebrity.